So there's a creator that I've been mentoring for years now. And it's a friend of mine, actually. It's weird to even say mentoring, but I mean, I definitely teach him as much as I can. When I first met him, one of the things that he was overwhelmed with was the fact that he didn't have enough time. Almost every creator can relate to this, that once you get into the business of being a creator full time, already creating content takes up a lot of your time, but now you're answering emails, you're on phone calls, you're getting into meetings, you're negotiating business opportunities, traveling. There's just a lot of demand. So when Matt was asking me for advice, one of the things I told him was, you should start thinking about where can you delegate certain tasks, who can you hire to help you have more time. One of those hires was a business manager. And so he went and hired somebody that would take care of all the business, and it worked out. This person, her name's Victoria, has been an amazing business manager, helped him make a lot of money and grow his business. On the flip side, content. I asked him, I was like, what would enable you to make even more content? Because I do believe, especially because it was short form, volume is very important. And then of course, because he was also trying to get into long form, that's almost doubling the amount of work. So I said, well, let's think about who you can hire for an editor. And so he found somebody who he had worked with previously, thought, did great work. And I said, why don't you just hire him? Like, literally go all in, just hire him full time. Like, what is it worth to have more time to be able to be in front of the camera more and create more content? So he goes and hires this person. At first, it was good. He's giving them little tasks, telling them to edit this video and that video. And as time went on, he basically delegated the whole responsibility of shooting and editing and uploading to this person. But what happened was, as he got comfortable letting this person make decisions and create the content which was representing him, ultimately making him a creator, there was challenges and mistakes were being made and it wasn't working out. He would end up not only going back and forth with this person and coaching them on what to do, he oftentimes found himself literally taking the whole project and editing it the way he wanted, the way he knew it needed to be, and it took as much time and sometimes more time than if he were to do it himself. Inevitably, he decided that he needed to just create the content. And the reason this story is so significant for me is because I was the one that learned from Matt. Even though I was coaching him on how to grow his business by finding more time for himself and delegating and hiring the right people, what he experienced is a reminder of what is most important and what so many creators forget about what makes them special. The instinct to know what to create and how to create it is the one strength, it's the one quality, it's the one skill that is literally irreplaceable, because it's the one thing that makes you different from just a regular editor or somebody that's a contractor that's not a creator. You had to learn it through making mistakes, through educating yourself, watching YouTube videos, and actually doing it. And you had to earn the instinct by doing it. And the lesson is the ability to know what to create and know how to create it is a one skill. It's the instinct that you can't delegate because it's irreplaceable and you can never forget that. And that's what I learned when Matt ultimately started editing his own content and it got back to the quality he wanted. So recently, a coaching client of mine told me that they needed a referral for an analytics expert. Their recent upload totally tanked. It kind of reflected a lot of the videos that they've been uploading and not getting enough views. I mean, like really bad. So I said, yeah, absolutely. I've got plenty of analytics experts that I can refer to that do consultation. They even work on, on a contract. But let me come in and just give you a free session, right? Because I know this stuff.
Yeah.
I don't do it for a living, like being consultant, but I do it for myself.
It's hard to point people in the right direction
Yeah.
if you don't even know where they're at.
And then, frankly, I actually knew what the more important issue was. And the secret about me having the session was I needed to get that out of them. And I need to kind of confirm it, because even though I can still make the referral to the analytics expert, this one issue was way more important than
Like you sensed it before.
Than the need for any kind of special service or strategy or whatever that they were expecting to get from the analytics person. And so I go in there, right? And I go into their office and I say, I mean, what's interesting is I first go in there and said, hey, man, just love your studio, love your office, it's a great place. Curious how many people it takes to make a video.
What was the answer?
And they go, what do you mean? I was like, well, like from the time that you come up with an idea to the time that it uploads, how many people? So you want to know everybody, which already kind of freaked me out. I was like, yeah. See, the fact that you're saying everybody is not a good sign. He goes, oh, probably 8 to 10 people. I'm like, whoa, wow, that's a lot of people. It's like, yeah, I know. And it also costs a lot too. I was like, I bet. I mean, 8 to 10 people. I mean, like I work with one editor. I know how much that costs. I can only imagine what, that kind of a team. And so I was like, okay, cool. And so, we're like getting some drinks, got some waters, and we sit down and slowly we start just digging into their channel. And what's interesting is that, he wanted to dive into the analytics. I was willing to do that, and it kind of popped it open. And I kind of entertaining the fact that this is what he wanted to do. And ultimately it came down to, okay, let's look at this video. Why did this video fail?
That most recent one.
Yeah. That's the easiest way to do it. It's like kind of like assess the situation based off of this video and why it performed so well. And so he goes, I mean, like, he actually didn't really know exactly what it was.
Yeah,
right?
Of course.
Like,
which is why he was asking.
Yeah, on the surface.
Totally valid.
Like, okay, let's just watch it. And so I'm pointing out things in the video. Like he had too much of this or too much of this. It was too complex. It was actually confusing. In fact, ultimately, as we were walking through it, like he already knew. It's like, okay, yeah, I get it. It's actually confusing.
That's important, actually, that he knew. Yeah.
And of course, I'm like this type of content I'm a fan of, and I said, it's good that you are pointing that out, because anything confusing is gonna just make somebody click off the video, go watch something that's not confusing. But the underlying challenge is this: why is the video confusing? And the reason I brought it up is like, you've been doing this for over a decade.
Yeah. And
you've had eras, right? How many eras? He goes, oh, I know what you're talking about. It's like, yeah, I had like 2 or 3 times where like this has happened, right? I had to like refigure it out and whatever. It's the natural progression, the up and down of a creator journey and the challenges that a channel has to overcome. So I was like, okay, cool, that's great. I don't even have to, we didn't even watch the rest of the video. We literally just watched 1 minute.
Really?
Yeah, not even like a minute. And the video is way longer than that. I said, like, there's no reason, because like, just this like, YouTube strategy, if you lose them in the first minute, you're not going to get them for the rest of the time.
Absolutely.
If you get them the first minute, they'll watch a 60-minute video. That's just kind of where like you're selling that this video is worth your time. The longer the video is, the more important that is going to be. And so we go through that whole process. And I say, okay, well, now we know there's a whole bunch of stuff that's making this video confusing. Who put that in? Do you have the final say in the video?
Oh, it goes back to what you asked. How many people touch the video, right?
How many touch the video, right? And so I asked him, like, do you have final say? He said, yeah. Okay, so why is all this other BS in here? He's like, oh, because of these people in these roles. I like, okay, cool. Well, that's the 8 to 10 people, right? It's taking your idea, which you have full creative control, and it's changing it to this product, right? I mean, that's what it was. It's
really
not even a video. It's like a product that the viewers ultimately don't want to watch. It's that simple. Now,
Yeah.
then the question is, okay, well then how do I know what to create and what's the strategy?
Yeah.
That's hence why he wants an
Of course.
analytics expert, right?
100%.
To give him the answers.
Yeah.
I said, okay, let's run this back. When's the last era of your channel when you're winning and everything felt good? Okay. And I said, and then he's like, okay, cool. It's like, yeah, and for me, it doesn't even matter what video it is. Just pick a video from that era.
Sure.
So
One that
you
you're
pick-
proud of, basically, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I was like, okay, cool. I said, okay, let's watch it, right? We watch it. Complete opposite. It's not confusing. It's not complex. It's actually really simple. And it actually kind of speaks to like the way YouTube is succeeding right now.
Yes.
And I go, okay, number one, why did this video hit? Why did this idea come out clean and got 1 million+ views? He's like, well, it was a good idea. I was like, who came up with the idea? He goes, me. I was like, oh, okay. So you actually knew what you were doing and you did it. And then how was it that this video turned out? And again, we didn't watch the rest of the video. We didn't watch the first minute. I was like, why was this first minute so much better than the other ones? Like, oh, it's because it was a smaller team.
Yeah.
And ultimately, there wasn't as many people tainting it.
Yeah.
He said there was one thing that his significant other mentioned recently, which his latest videos don't really represent him.
That's
This
important.
person, significant other, would say, why is it that they're cutting you so much? Why do they edit out so much of what you have to say and so much of your camera presence?
Yeah.
Because they're like adding all this other junk. The video that was winning at 1 million+ views was clean, was pure, was really featuring him and his idea and delivered on the promise.
Yes.
I mean, this is basic YouTube 101.
Yeah.
Right? I was like, come on, like, do I have to, no one has, you don't have to hire an expert for this. I said, okay, and then let's talk about the team. Who was shooting this? How big was the team? It's like, oh, one person. I was like, anybody else there? Oh yeah, my assistant was there. I was like, cool, so there's 2 people.
Yeah.
And then who was on the post? Oh, 1 editor. So you're saying there's 3 people involved versus right now you get 8 to 10. It's like, yeah, I think we're like finding some answers, right?
So what would you say that boils down to then? A bigger principle, if actually kind of the inverse of what most people would think. Instead of increasing, you would think that increasing the team size, you'd end up with more hits.
Hiring more experts, better,
Yeah.
contractors, having like this bang up team. Why is it that the leaner, meaner, simpler idea, simpler concept is hitting? Years ago, when I actually think that video could even do better now, right?
Yeah.
Versus his new complex, strategic, very optimized, highly produced thing.
Give us the answers, Benji.
Ultimately, what it comes down to with this creator specifically is 2 things. They didn't care enough to be part of the whole process of creating the content, because I asked them, so how much of your day is spent on YouTube videos versus everything else, because they wear a lot of hats. They go about 5%. I almost gasped. I'm like, 5%?
Yeah.
So 5% of your like working day is dedicated to YouTube videos, and you're asking me why you're not getting views on
That's
your
a
videos
good point, yeah.
versus most other creators who are like superstars and
Brass
just making a
tacks.
living.
Yeah.
90 to 100%, and maybe 1 to 10% on everything else.
Yeah.
This is it's such a competitive game. So I was like, okay, I got to care, whatever,
Yeah.
right? I was like, but listen, why did it get to the point where you have 8 to 10 people and you're only spending 5%? Because this person thought that other people could do what ultimately only he could do. See, remember the story you talked about Matt, right?
Yeah.
The instinct of being a creator is learned and earned.
Yeah.
That last video that got 1 million+ views, that was a hit video. That came after literally a decade of doing it.
That's so true, yeah.
And the fact that he knew, once he was very realistic and honest with himself, that when he watches this video, that this video is not hitting on all cylinders, because guess what? The people involved didn't have the ability, and more importantly, the instinct to make the right decisions. And when so many other people are making decisions and have the responsibility to ultimately not only create the content, but to edit the content, it just doesn't hit.
Yeah.
Versus that in the early days, especially in that era where that video hit. And so my thing was like, I said, dude, straight up, trust your instinct.
Yeah.
Is there ever a time where you came up with an idea and you just told somebody, hey, let's shoot this and do it? I couldn't have even planned it better. He goes, yeah, guess what? The other day, so he's like, I had this idea. Remember that
Wait,
thing?
how long ago are we talking?
We're talking like literally just like not even 2 weeks ago.
Okay, there we go.
He's like, okay, hey, pick up the camera. You're going to shoot this.
Yeah.
So no scripting, no planning, not a huge team, literally one person shooting, and then he probably edited it, right?
Yeah.
That video got 1 million+ views.
Dude.
And he even said, I told my shooter that was shooting it, I was like, this is going to hit.
Instinct, right?
And this instinct, and
Yeah.
it hit, and he almost was like boasting about it. He got kind of excited about it. I go, okay,
That's so cute.
hey, you didn't even need me for that
So
video.
true.
You
That's so
did
true.
it.
No analytics experts?
Yeah, and so ultimately, I said, this is what you need to remind yourself, that you have an instinct and ability that nobody else that you hire on your team will ever have.
Yes.
It's one of the hardest things for a creator, because if you do want to scale, and this person has a business, has a whole production team, you want to remove yourself from the process so that you have more time, ultimately to focus on what's important. But guess what? Maybe take a vacation, maybe do this.
Sure.
Fair enough. But while you're taking a vacation, you're taking a break, or other people doing the work, there's a creator out there that's spending 100% of their time in the same niche, to the same audience, that's doing laps around you. Literally, there's people that are competitors, right?
Yeah.
Some of them are even friends that are crushing on views with a smaller team, with a fraction of the budget.
Yeah. Hustling.
Sometimes by themselves.
Yeah.
And the question is, how are they doing it?
Yeah.
Well, this person uniquely actually already knew all this.
Yeah.
This is I'm a creator too,
Yeah.
reminding them this is what made you successful, so why do you think it's different now?
Yeah.
This is what made that video that did 1 million+ views great. Why do you think now it doesn't require it? And now I'm not saying you can't have teams, but dude, it goes back to the first tip I had. You have to care enough to be present in the creator process.
Yeah.
And so, walking away from the meeting, what was interesting is their response to me was, like, the last thing they said when they're saying bye is like, Benji, thank you for being bold enough to be honest with me, to tell me directly what
it's real stuff.
And this is why I will still refer an analytics expert, but I think they're overrated in this sense.
Yeah.
Most creators need to just focus on the fundamentals and get back to the principles of success of YouTube, and then they can hire an analytics expert. Because once you're doing all that, then the analytics person can come in and hit at another level.
They put gas on the fire.
This is the other thing too, that this other person revealed to me, and I already knew going into the session, they were uploading once a month. Man, how are you supposed to compete against somebody uploading once a week, or even like 3 to 4 times a week?
Yeah, or even once a day.
Right. It's like, and I know there's, people that have businesses that don't do volume, they're all about quality. But man, with YouTube, it's not just quality, it's also quantity. Because you're talking about an audience that goes onto YouTube every day and does it. So if you have both lack of trust in your instincts and caring enough to be part of the content creation process, and you're delegating to other people, at the same time, those same people that are supposed to be doing volume is not doing volume, right?
Or not the right type of volume.
Of course it's going to kill your channel. Now, there's so much more that went into that conversation that I don't think actually matters as much, because we go into analytics, we're looking at other channels, we're looking at strategies.
Yeah, that's Creator Secrets podcast stuff.
But it was so important for me to just dial it to this one thing, because again, if they realize that they learned and they earned that instinct, and it's not something simply that you can delegate away or give away, because that same editor or that shooter or whoever's on your team also have to learn it and earn it, you will stay in the content creation process a lot longer and maybe never leave it, because that's what's required to create great content that viewers want to watch.
Let me ask you this then, because I think about you, actually. Because first of all, I was an employee of yours. You delegated that to me, the shooting and the editing early on. But you've done that with several people, right? And actually just getting back in the game in the last several months and really having a lot of more success than actually you and I ever had when we were doing, right? How did you do it then, right? If you delegated stuff to other people and you're finding success at that, why is it that it doesn't work sometimes? Like you talked about the Matt story, and that was like kind of a whatever. For sure. But like, why is it working for you on Benji Man TV?
Well, I've only had 2 editors, you and now Chris, right?
I didn't know that actually.
And by the way, I'll tell you the story about you. Remember what I said? The instinct is learned and earned.
Yeah.
Well, when you submitted your request to work with me, right? I don't know, what do you call it? You submitted your resume, right?
Yeah, my reel is what I called it at the time.
Yeah. Well, your resume had content that you learned how to create the content, and you earned that instinct. Now, of course, it wasn't like my level because I had been doing it at that point almost a decade or whatever, but I knew enough that I was like, okay, I could continue teaching this person.
Yes.
It's not just somebody from Hollywood or some production person or a contractor. No, this is someone that learned and earned the instinct of YouTube, because it's a different thing. Now, if I recall, you didn't have anything crazy. I think you had one video, might have gone viral, but that was the point, right? Like, I already knew from the beginning when you're working with this, okay, I can develop it. And then arguably, you literally like ruined editing content for me. I was like, I can never do what this guy did. And then eventually you moved on, you went to school and did your thing, right? And for a while I didn't have an editor. And then comes along Chris.
Yes.
Chris, at first, didn't work as an editor. He just worked as somebody, I call him like a production assistant. So he was traveling with us. He was helping us create content, but not really shooting, not really editing, just part of the process, okay? And then eventually I was like, you know what, I want to start doing food videos again. So I hired him. And he actually went through a season similar to you where we're doing food and recipe videos. Now the pandemic happened and, like kind of derailed things. So, him and I split ways, not because of performance, just because I had a lack of interest. And also, to be honest, I wanted to pursue other things. Yeah. And it just was a time. So he goes off and does his own thing, works with other creators. And then just recently, I started doing food vlogs, a little bit different than food recipe videos because they're less optimized, less produced, right? Vlogs. But what's interesting is vlogs in a way it's even harder to edit.
That's true.
Because like when you have a recipe video, you can have a format and you can have bullet points and
you can make a system around it.
You can have like a blueprint, right? And they can follow and then work. But like with a vlog, it's like a representation of me.
Yeah, it's like your journal.
And so the question is, well, how has he been successful? Because literally there's been some times where I do blind uploads, as I would say. Literally, he will take my content that I recorded, he would edit it, he would upload it, and just because I trust him enough, I trust his instincts enough, we uploaded it, and it does well, right? Now, I'm in an experimental phase. Like, I'm literally uploading 4 to 7 times a week. Sometimes things get like 10,000 views, and then, I've had ones that does almost 200,000 views, right? All edited by him remotely. And the question is, well, how is it that in my case, right? I'm literally like doing more views than other people, the whole teams and, like have huge budgets or whatever. And I'm still not like this crazy superstar, but like I'm getting more views and earning more than I ever did before. And it's because of him, because ultimately he has the instinct that's required. The one that I have, that if you just hire any editor, isn't guaranteed. In fact, almost always never is there. And guess what?
Yeah.
He learned it and earned it. Not only from being mentored and coached by me for so many years, but going off and doing it himself for another creator, for other creators that hired him, and now putting in the reps. I think right now we're up to like 120, 130 videos.
Yeah.
What's interesting is even he said, I have not edited that many videos in the whole entirety of my career. So imagine like
so he's getting
learning
too.
and so like he's building that instinct to the point where I can like blind upload something. And so I guess I'm kind of forgetting what your question is, but that's my experience.
Yeah, you've answered it.
By the way, this is why if like Chris were to leave or even when you left, I'm not quick to just hire a new editor.
No, yeah.
I'd rather not edit and put out content. Because, you know, like my life is different. I also have my vlog with my wife, so I don't have to ship a product. I don't have to upload a video to still make a living. I can still do this side hustle. But that instinct is so important to me. I will wait to find
the right
somebody,
person.
right person, versus just hire anybody that says they can do it. This is why their resume is so important as an editor, because I can see if they have the instinct.
Yeah.
Even if they don't get a lot of views, like there's still like something you can understand about content. And then I think there's a couple of things I'll end with about Chris. He's known me and Judy about longer than
this is
anybody
where I was going to go. Yes, that's crazy.
So his instinct as an editor to be able to understand YouTube is one thing, but also his instinct and understanding of our audience.
Yeah.
Like literally, he has a following himself.
Yes.
And a lot of those people are people that follow us. So
That's true,
he knows those viewers.
Yeah.
He knows what they think and what's important to them. So when he's editing, he also did that. And this is a mistake a lot of creators make is it's already hard enough to understand YouTube and have the instinct of how to create content for that. But then to understand that audience, you as a creator,
whole other level.
Do it so naturally because you forget what you do in an instant. Took a lifetime for you to learn.
Yeah.
Versus editor, especially if they're working different niches, it's like, how do they understand all this? Like you have to know what they think, what they're typing, what they're like experiencing, what they're expecting. And so Chris understands that, and that's why he's done so good. And you know, he knows that I don't just compliment real easily, right? Like I like to make sure to highlight the good and other, but I've been like hesitant. I've complimented him more in the last 6 months than ever, because all of those days, those months, those years that he's worked for me, been around the audience, been around our business, plus all the reps he put in, is finally getting to a point where he's shipping and delivering a piece of content that people actually want to watch. And it wasn't because I'm telling him what to do and he's getting guided every single upload. I told you, sometimes he gets no guidance, right? Sometimes nothing.
That's crazy.
He's putting all the pieces together to be able to do the thing that is so hard to delegate, is to have the instinct for my content and for my community. And that is something that, well, I'm really grateful for, that he's applying it to what I'm doing. But I know every other creator out in the world that wants to hire an editor wishes they had. And it's just not easy. And guess what? If it's easy to find that person, it definitely is not cheap.
No, it comes down to taste is what it is, actually, right? Learned and earned is what it's taste. That is what's learned and earned. And every creator has a different taste, right? When you are alone as a creator, this is what I'm figuring out. Like, I'm thinking about the person you consulted with, right? Going from a 3-person team to an 8-person team, or from a 1-person or 2-person to a 3-person to an 8, right? The ballooning numbers, right? Not to say that you can't scale, you totally can, right? Like your relationship with Chris is a great example of that. But if you scale without thinking about what the taste is and how you center the taste versus what your desire is, what you want, then every time you add a person, you're not actually multiplying your efforts, you're diluting the taste, literally. Like you have let's say you're making pho, right? Benji Man TV moment here, right? And you've got a broth, and you have it, and it's great. And then the next day you're like, oh, I really love that broth. I'm just gonna add some water in. Half broth, half water. Is it gonna have the same level of taste? Not at all. How about you add another half? No, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. But centering that taste and figuring out how to elevate that when you're hiring and having someone else who's earned that over time, that's how you end up having a scale. But it's not easy and it's not fast.
So I've been making pho lately, so this is kind of fresh in my mind, obviously. I've been watching other people's pho recipe videos, but there's one particular from like a pho master in Australia, okay? And they have this legendary pho restaurant in Australia. And their pho is so good that they have a business around selling the spices.
Really?
When this person makes their pho recipe videos, probably to sell spices, but I think more importantly, he's doing the thing that's most important to the viewer, teaching you how to make pho.
Yeah.
It's like 30 to 45 minute videos, because that's what it's required, just to try to teach it, okay? Now, one thing about him is, I think he might have 2 restaurants. I think he actually only has 1 restaurant. So he doesn't have 10. And so let's just take why that is. It's one thing to teach someone how to make the pho, But to make good pho, it's not just how you make it, it's also the ingredients.
Yes.
Well, say you're getting the very absolute best quality beef, because there's this one guy that makes the best beef, but guess what? He only gets one cow a year. I don't know what you call it. Is it steer? A steer? One.
You know more than me.
Beef cow. I don't know. I don't even know actually. He only makes one.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? That one is enough for you to run your restaurant for that year, right?
Yeah.
Probably like multiple, but let's just call it one to be easy. So if you want to start a second one, yeah, you could teach how to make the pho.
Totally.
You follow the same recipe, you use the same techniques, even if you had to go out of your way to work double time to hire another chef and teach them. But what if the ingredient is a little bit different?
Yeah.
Well, you can't start. So I was like, oh, but I'll get away with it because I'll just go to Costco and get whatever beef, right? But it's not going to be the same
No,
pho.
it won't.
YouTube videos are the same way.
They totally are.
You make the best YouTube video for your channel, for your community.
The tastiest broth.
The tastiest video ever. And you're so good at it. You're like, you know what? Ah, man, one a week for the last 10 years, I'm kind of tired.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to get a team to do at least 2 of the videos a month, and I'll do another one. So those 2 ones, you think, hey, I could teach somebody, just like with the pho master in the restaurant. It's like, maybe it works, right? Yeah. But you're like, you know what? I'm only going to do 1 video every 6 months, and the other, what is the math on that? 6 times 4, that's 24, 23 videos other people are going to do. But guess what? Costs a lot.
Yeah.
And so you don't just need 1 editor, 1 shooter. Now you need making multiple editor, 1 and then guess what? Now you have to have talent.
Yes.
The ingredients are getting watered down a little bit.
Yes, they are.
Right? And you think, I'll just hire someone that's good at that talent and that knows how to act and knows how to read a script, right? I'll be part of that. I'll teach a script writer. Oh, I teach a script writer, I'll do it, right? And then I'm going to have a shooter editor. I'll teach them whatever. And then as you're trying to scale up, do more episodes without you, more content, without you being involved, your videos aren't turning out as good. Like literally the videos are not as good as the videos you created all on your own.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Why is that?
It seems backwards.
Because it's not just the recipe.
Yeah.
It's not just the ingredients. It's really the instinct to know how to cook that recipe and when and how to use those ingredients. And that's why ultimately the chef that shows up at their restaurant and restaurants more often and is more involved ultimately can get the meal to the customer the way they would cook it on their own, even if other people cook it, versus the ones like, I'm gonna take a break. You see it in restaurants all the time. I'm not a restaurateur, I don't know anything about the industry, but I know the restaurant chef that becomes, the superstar and is in the limelight and is going to Vegas and doing TV shows and is like not in the kitchen anymore, the kitchen starts hurting.
Yeah.
Don't discount the value of that instinct that took a long time for you to build and how much it's going to take to help that new person who's going to be part of the content creation process to learn it. And ultimately they're going to have to earn it too, because it's so important that they have the instinct, just like you had the instinct in the beginning and Chris has the instinct, and literally the best editors have the instinct, and it usually is because they are obsessed with YouTube, they put in the reps, and they had to work with you, the creator. Yeah. And this is why good editors ultimately become experts. Yeah. They become coaches or consultants.
That's true, yeah.
Because the instinct is the most valuable thing,
it really
not
is.
the actual editing process. Because arguably there's editors out there that know how to use all the functions on Final Cut and know how to use like graphics, things or whatever. But if they don't understand YouTube and specifically the audience you're trying to reach, then it doesn't matter. Yeah. And so, by the way, this ain't just something I'm pulling out of my ass. Almost all the YouTube experts I know, they were all editors or working on their own content and then became that. All they're doing, and this is why this person that wanted to get a referral to an analytics expert, I just basically told the secret. It's like, they are going to just remind you of the instinct you already have that you just need to trust and apply. And they're gonna put on this whole dog and pony show because that's how they make a living, right? Yeah. And in fact, I'm not discounting what they can tell you, but dude, fix the fundamentals.
Yeah, and then
follow the principles that you already did once.
Exactly.
And guess what? You probably could still work with an analytics person, but get so much more out of them.
Yeah.
But if you don't have the freaking ingredients right,
Yeah.
and you haven't gotten the recipe to the team, and guess what? You kicked a few, bad, sous chefs out or whatever, you're never going to get to that point where you're just putting out a video, literally, that people want.
what I take away from this is that instinct is the most valuable thing. It's the hardest earned thing, and that it's actually easy to forget how important it is, right? And when you think about growing, that is the thing you should probably be most aware of, is the instinct, both in terms of hiring, in terms of yourself, and how to keep that control for yourself to make sure that either the people who work with you have the same instinct that you do, which, by the way, they probably never will have the exact instinct you do.
That's the
right?
mistake. Don't assume people will have the instinct
Exactly.
or ever care to get the instinct.
Yes.
And this is why ultimately creators end up editing themselves or being part of the content creation process, or they spend more time trying to teach that
Yes.
and realize I can't, because to get that instinct literally took me a decade.
Yeah.
Or I had to upload hundreds, if not 1,000 plus videos just to get there. So how's this person who went to art school and learned how to edit from some kind of Apple class or whatever, because they used to have them. They used to have editing things.
I know.
Right? But they don't talk about YouTube at all. Valuable to know how Final Cut works, but has nothing to do with YouTube or audiences.